So welcome everyone to session 2 of this round of this Somatics and Yoga Practice Group series. It's a thrill to have you here. Today we'll be taking up the topic of biomechanics, or at least just kind of a little exploration of some terminology within biomechanics and how it relates to anatomy. So literally putting the parts of our bodies in motion in relationship to our environment, to gravity, to the internal and external forces that act upon our bodies. And I have a quote for you that somewhat related to this topic. At least it helps us to be playful as we explore some of these terms, some of these concepts. And it's by Henry David Thoreau. Simple quote. He says, "Not until we are lost do we begin to understand ourselves. Not until we are lost do we begin to understand ourselves." And I think that one of the best ways to get lost is to kind of get lost in exploring our own bodies. It is how we show up in the present moment. It is how we can, touch the environment that is around us. So we will be using this kind of getting lost in the playfulness of exploring our senses, exploring the movement in our bodies, with this kind of, idea in mind. Biomechanics, but also just kind of getting lost in the broad topic of what it is to have a human body. It's really complex, beautifully complex, and we all have one. I think that's pretty cool. We will actually start seated, but then we'll kind of get up and explore around. So this will be a brief seated beginning. If you want to stay close to the screen, if you're already there, that's perfectly fine. If you're at your mat, you can stay there or you can go there. I'll go to my mat later. I'm going to stay right here for this beginning portion. So get into a comfortable seated position. And begin to look around the physical space that you're in. Be using our awareness of our physical space in this practice today. It's always a good idea to orient to the space that you're in, especially when you're really in two spaces at once. The virtual space we create together. And if there's anything that creates a certain sensation or feeling or something that you're just really drawn to, I invite you to stay with it for a few breaths. Noticing what you become aware of. The input through the senses, but also maybe sensations that are arising internally. Once you've gotten a sense of your physical surroundings now, as you're ready, bring your attention back to our virtual space here together. You may either soften your gaze for this next part, or you can close your eyes completely if you feel comfortable with that. And I invite you to simply notice yourself sitting here, where you are in your physical space. And where we are situated also in the virtual space that we create together. And open up your awareness to sound. Noticing what you're hearing, including the sound of my voice from time to time, including sounds in your physical environment. Opening up to your sense of hearing. What do you notice? I invite you to welcome in your sense of smell. Knowing that for any of this exercise, there may be something really distinct that you notice, or it may be subtle, or there may be nothing at all that is really distinguishable. And all of this is okay. Just noticing what we notice. So drawing our attention to sense of smell. And next, I invite you to welcome in your sense of taste. Maybe moving your tongue around in your mouth. And to enhance the awakening of the awareness of this sense. Simply noticing what you notice. If it's something distinct, you can even label it. Maybe you taste your morning tea or coffee. It's less distinct to just notice, be with it. I invite you to shift your attention and welcome in sense of sight. If your eyes are closed, you can simply notice light, a little bit of light that filters in behind your closed eyes. Or you can even open your eyes slightly. Allowing awareness of sight to be your focal point. Noticing what is arising in this moment. And in so doing, becoming more aware of your relationship to the environment that you're in. And finally, I invite you to welcome in sense of touch. The surfaces that your body is touching right now. Maybe the feeling of the air on your skin. Your feet on the floor. Your legs as they touch the surface beneath you. If your eyes have been closed for this opening, gradually and gently begin to open them. And we'll stay with the sense of touch, and we'll move this around your space just a little bit. You might start by just simply noticing the feeling of the clothing that you chose to wear today, your sweatshirt, your pants. Just getting a sense of like maybe the feeling of your skin. Opening up sense of touch by being more active with it and sensing the surface that you were sitting on. Maybe it's your mat or maybe it's a chair. And when you're ready to take this further, standing up and moving around the space, and you might just, so we're exploring the sense of touch first, you might just move around and kind of feel onto surfaces. Just get close to them. Really curious. This is called a sensory sweep. Noticing the difference in textures. Feeling the difference between my sticky mat and the hardwood floor. Just, opening up to curiosity, like, what is this physical space? Maybe even beginning to notice your relationship to the surfaces and how gravity affects your relationship. Just moving around and getting a sense of surfaces and your sense of touch. Sense of touch, feeling how your clothing touches your skin. Just very curious. Like, what does that feel like? What does it feel like if I crawl on the floor or roll around on my back? Okay, now coming to your sense of sight. And you can stay in one place or you can literally like walk around. What do I see over here? Just really opening up your sense of sight in your physical space. Looking and maybe changing their angle, looking at it from different angles, from different distances. That's so interesting. I'm gonna look a little bit closer, be further away. What is there to see? Seeing the wood grain on the floor. And now I invite you to shift to your sense of smell. Just maybe noticing if any smells kind of call you to go and explore further. But maybe you wonder like what a particular thing smells like. I'm smelling the dirt in my snake plant, for example. What do my books smell like? What does my skin smell like today? Can I still smell the lotion that I put on earlier? I smell my laundry detergent. Yeah. Okay, and your sense of taste. And might even be a good opportunity to take a sip of water if you want. Noticing what water tastes like, what is already in your mouth as a part of the conversation. Yeah. And finally, your sense of hearing. And with hearing, just opening up to sound, which might mean that you're staying in one place to really bring your attention to sound. But you might hear something and get a little bit closer to it. What is that? Okay, and I heard something back here. What was that? Maybe even what does it sound like if I rub my hand against this surface? What does this sound like and how is it different? Yeah. That's enough of that. And now that that is complete, come to a place of standing. Okay. Just open up to all of your senses the best that you can now that we have done a little bit of awakening of all of them. Know that we are going to carry that with us. This is a part of how we orient ourselves to our physical surroundings. That in mind, grab your strap. And so our prop list today is one strap. And we'll begin with a really, really simple action. If you have a loop in your strap like I do, just take it out. I'm not going to need it. And take your hands onto your strap, about shoulder width distance apart, and bring your arms just in front. And then on repeat, you'll just lift your arms up overhead and then back down. Just inhale up and exhale. And inhale up and exhale down. A few more rounds. Inhale and exhale. Inhale up. Exhale down. Keep going. In this way, we're just bringing our arms through flexion and then bringing them back to neutral. And a big part of the conversation when we're talking about anatomical concepts and also relating it to putting our bodies into motion through some biomechanical concepts or terminology. Very important thing to know is joint positions and what flexion and extension is, internal, external rotation. So a lot of the conversation in biomechanics has to do with the position of your body, and that's going to relate to all of the joint positions. So starting position and where your body goes. And not only where your body goes, but the velocity with which it moves and whether or not it accelerates as it's moving to another position. So position, velocity, acceleration. Okay. That's enough for now of that motion. I'm going to take the strap and just put it off to the side. We'll come back to it. So that would be what is called open chain movement with shoulder flexion. We had a little bit of a boundary with clasping onto the strap, but now we'll explore some closed chain motions. And what that looks like, slightly different, come into plank. So we don't come all the way back into neutral with the arms, but we can come into plank and downward facing dog and approximate the same sort of action with our shoulders. So lift your hips up and back and come into downward facing dog. And inhale, shift forward to plank. And exhale, downward facing dog. And continue doing that on repeat. And as you do this, so I introduced the concept of position, velocity, acceleration, and just simply notice how you pause in each shape, but as you move from one to the other, it has a certain velocity of movement, and then there are points at which it accelerates and decelerates. I'm just noticing that. moving from one position to another, and acceleration and deceleration. Through the peak of the motion, how's it going a little bit faster? How does it slow down? Just one more here. Okay. Walk your hands back to your feet. Come into a standing forward bend. And from here, place your hands on your hips. Lengthen through your spine, look forward. With a straight spine, stand all the way up. And lower your arms down by your sides. Find your strap again. Bring your hands back behind you and clasp onto the strap about shoulder width distance apart. So we explored shoulder flexion. Now we'll explore a little bit of shoulder extension. So inhale, arms up and back as far as you can, and then exhale, bring them back to your lower thighs, back of your thighs. Inhale up and exhale, bring them back. And inhale and exhale. Few rounds here. Just working this action. Might even notice with your senses hearing through the digital space, my air purifier decided to come on. Doing its job. Just going through this loop of more extension and then neutral with your shoulders. Okay, one more. And then move your strap out of the way and place it off to the side. We'll do the same sort of exploration. So this is open chain with a little bit of a boundary with clasping onto the strap. Now sit down. Bring your hands back behind you. We'll do a modified Purvottanasana. Either point all 10 fingers straight forward, or a little bit more mild, you can point your fingers out to the sides, up to you. Strengthen and straighten your arms. And then inhale, lift your hips up, bring your arms into further extension, and then exhale, hips down. And inhale, hips up, creating a tabletop position, and exhale, lower down. And inhale, hips up. Exhale, lower down. And inhale, hips up. And lower down. And a few more rounds, again, noticing kind of the quality and the arc of movement. You know, the position at the top, the position at the bottom, and how it's, you know, the speed, the velocity, but then also how it accelerates and decelerates and where. Let's just do one more. Okay. Good morning, shoulders, or good afternoon, or whenever you're practicing, just hello, shoulders. Okay, stand up, however you'd like. Maybe even shake that out a little bit. Grab your strap one more time. So we're going to put some of these pieces together. Now take your hands in front and bring your hands about shoulder width distance apart. And this time, you'll bring your arms all the way up and back like so. Might need to take your hands a little wider for this. So it's an inhale up, exhale, forward. Inhale up, exhale back. Inhale up and exhale forward. Inhale up and exhale back. And in this motion, you might have heard this called shoulder flossing. It's called different things. We're coming through flexion all the way to the top and then back through to extension. The shoulders have the ability to flex and extend and to rotate and to abduct, adduct, lots of different motions. And if you put all the motions together, it looks something like circumduction, which is moving in a circular fashion. This is only really possible with the ball and socket joints. Another one in your body is the hip joint. So end on the forward motion, finish the round that you're on. And now move your strap out of the way. So next up, a static position, and then we'll take it perhaps to another position from there. So from plank, spin to the outer edge of your right foot, and then maybe even stack your left foot on top, coming into a side plank position. If you feel able and ready, you can stretch your left arm up. Otherwise, keep both hands down onto the floor. Just noticing this different arm position. Haven't been here yet, first time. And then bring your left hand down, come into plank. And we'll come to the second side, spin to the outer edge of your left foot, stack your right foot on top. You can keep both hands down, or press down and forward with your left hand and stretch your right arm up. In so doing, we're just kind of exploring our position, our relationship to gravity as we move through space. And then bring your right hand down and come into plank and come into downward facing dog from here. So noticing that there's a lot of movement capacity, even with if one or both hands fixed on the floor. And again, shift forward to plank and spin to the outer edge of your right foot, stack your left foot on top, press down and forward with your right hand, stretch your left arm up. Now keep your right shoulder really strong, and then you'll start to bring the bottom arm into extension. So bring your left foot back behind you, and then maybe even come into that kind of Purvottanasana variation that we did earlier. You can stretch your arm up and over, kind of like a flip dog variation. And then very slowly come back through side plank and bring your left hand down. And we'll come to the second side, spin to the outer edge of your left foot, stack your right foot on top. And again, you can always take breaks or decide to opt out and just watch at any point in time. Side plank, bring your right foot behind you. Then you might even very carefully turn open into the Purvottanasana variation we did earlier, and stretch your right arm up and over. Just exploring your relationship to the floor, to gravity, moving around a fixed point, which is your left hand. And then come back through a side plank position, bring your right hand down, and to downward facing dog. Okay, now something a little bit more playful. I invite you to either do something more organized again, or you can just keep your right hand on the floor and then just explore the ways that you can move around your right hand, right? You can come into like a plank position, you can come into a side plank position, keeping that hand really stable. What are the movement possibilities with keeping the hand fixed, right? And stabilizing the shoulder and just kind of playing with the relationship of your body. If, say, your hand is fixed on the floor, what can you do there? And do things that maybe even surprise you. All right, now once you've explored that to your, gotten your fill of exploring that side, you can start to shift to your left hand. What kinds of movement capacities you have there. Again, taking it slow and being careful. Just noticing how much movement capacity there is, even with one arm completely fixed. And then we have the ability to stabilize and explore. And isn't that super interesting? Okay, and bring both hands down onto your mat and come back into downward facing dog. Inhale deeply. And exhale completely. Take one more inhale. On your exhale, walk your hands back to your feet and come into a standing forward bend at the back of your mat. Place your hands on your hips, lengthen through your spine, and then stand all the way up. Lower your arms down by yourself. Okay. So we've done this in a very controlled fashion, with some acceleration, deceleration, and with arcs of movement. Now I'll speed it up a little bit and make it a bit more dynamic. Start by just swinging your arms back and forth. Just noticing how obvious it is where your arms accelerate, where they pause, creating a pendulum action. You might even add a bounce with your knees in order to aid the motion of your arms, your shoulders. Especially now that we've warmed our shoulders up. Hopefully this should feel a little bit more natural. Just swinging as far as feels appropriate and healthy for your shoulders today. If you'd like to add one more piece, on the downswing of your arms, you can add a forward bend and then come back up. Same arm motion, and just adding a movement of the torso, flexion, and then extension of the hips. Noticing maybe if that changes the velocity and acceleration with the downswing of your arms. How does that change? Maybe what I'm noticing is that it kind of slows down the movement of the arms forward and up in deflection. And if you decided to add the forward bend after your next one or two, now just keep swinging your arms, but stay upright. Noticing any small differences between the upright version and adding the torso movement. Okay, after your next swing, let that settle for a moment. Even shake it out. Next piece, so we've been working symmetrically with the arm swings. Now, start to swing your arms asymmetrically. One arm forward, one arm back. Noticing how even just changing the pattern in this small way changes a lot with the rest of your body. I'm noticing gentle twisting action through my upper chest and then down through my torso. My hips want to move with it too. As you feel more comfortable, you can bring your arms into a bigger swing, if desired, possible. And you might add the knee bounce. This one always makes me think of, maybe not with the full arm swing, but it makes me think of snow skiing. Of sticking the pole into the snow, just one at a time. I might even think elliptical. So noticing if it's easier to accelerate with one arm versus the other. Noticing the differences. Also noticing the similarities. Okay, now slow it down a little bit. Stop swinging so vigorously and take your left arm out of it. Just moving your right arm. And we'll explore a little bit of circumduction. So with your arm moving forward, start to move your arm in a circle. You might increase until it's a full big circle, or it can stay really small. Either way is totally fine. Okay, and then take the circle out, just swinging forward and back again. And bring your left arm back in. Swinging front and back. Just keeping it small. Now, take your right arm out of it. Just swinging your left arm. On your next forward swing, just starting to make little circles. It can be small, like you're tracing a circle on the floor. And then you can start to increase it as you're able, as is skillful for your shoulders and what's showing up for you today. Always keeping that in mind. And then begin to slow it down, make the circle smaller and smaller and smaller until it goes away. And then bring your right arm back into it. And then let it settle down completely. And stand tall. Standing in Tadasana with your feet hip-width distance apart, we've explored a lot with the shoulders for our starting place. Now let's get into some other parts of the body. Draw your chin in toward your chest and roll your right ear toward your right shoulder. And come down through center. Roll your left ear toward your left shoulder. And through center, right ear, right shoulder. And again through center, left ear, left shoulder. And just in that way. Noticing that even a simple neck, half neck roll gets into a lot of the muscular structures in your upper back and neck. As you come down through the center, there's a little bit of a quickening. There's an acceleration until you come to the other side. Noticing the starting position, noticing the movement and the change, and the difference in speed throughout the arc of movement. In position, velocity, acceleration. All terms that are really, really super key in biomechanics. All right, and bring your head back to center and then lift it upright. The standing in Tadasana, even turn your palms to face forward. So when we talk about position, a lot of where the starting place is going to be is like, this is like at anatomical neutral. So oftentimes we'll be talking about starting from anatomical neutral. Where does the body move from this place that we're standing in? We have position, we have velocity and acceleration, and we also have description of the movement of the body through angles, right? So even move your arms forward a little bit. As you're moving your shoulders into flexion, it creates different angles. Okay, and we have kind of the shoulders, it rotates on the shoulder joint and creates different angular motions. Right, and then move your arms back behind you. Yeah. And this is the same thing as you come down a little bit deeper into the body as well. So start to side bend to one side, and then you'll side bend the other way. And just noticing the difference in like how it changes from the starting position. And the curves and angles that are being created. And how moving from one position, the neutral position, down to the other position involves the terms that we've been talking about pretty exhaustively at this point. This velocity, acceleration. Okay, and then beginning to come back through center, stand tall, and start to make circles with your hips. Your pelvis just moving up and around in one direction. Noticing how just moving this one part of your body in a circular motion changes so much of what we would call anatomical neutral. Even if you keep your arms by your sides, all the side bending in your torso, slight flexion and extension, tilting of your pelvis, bending of the knees, and then shift directions if you haven't already. It's just using our own bodies as a vehicle for understanding how we're situated in space. Right? And biomechanics in general deals with forces inside us and forces outside of us that act upon these things. Right? So we're always dancing with this, force that's ever present, which is the one we'll focus on today, is the force of gravity. How does gravity keep us in this particular spot? Is a huge part of how fast you can move through space, right? How you can affix your feet on the floor. All right, and let that settle down and start to bounce through your knees. Noticing how this becomes very easy to note the change in angle and the motion between your upper legs and lower legs. And just a bounce. And then make little circles in one direction with your knees, and you can slow it down now just to really feel it and make sure that you're not taking it too far. And then make circles in the other direction. And then begin to let that settle, stands taller. And what we'll do today is we'll trace circles with one foot on the floor, and then we'll switch sides. So you just trace a circle. If you need slippery surface, you can go somewhere off of your sticky mat. And just tracing a circle. You might switch directions. Notice if one feels harder than the other. One definitely does for me. Just tracing circles. In ballet, they do There's an exercise that actually does this in a more, kind of formal way, more upright way, called run de jambe. Okay, and then switch sides. So we're just doing a kind of a creative movement, moving the foot in a circle, maybe bouncing with the knee as you move forward or back, and then maybe switching directions. Just exploring what it's like to move in circles with one leg and try to maintain balance on the other leg. Velocity and acceleration, all the complex little micro changes in different angles in the body, including the arms, so hold on to balance. Okay, and then come back to center and stand tall. Now start to sway from side to side. And swaying from side to side, notice what naturally wants to happen in the body here. Using dynamic movement to, again, get the sense of transferring weight from side to side, movement and acceleration through the middle point, a slight suspension as you reach one side and then the other. Different shapes that you're creating with your body from the starting position of Tadasana. Then add a twist, wrapping your arms around you from side to side. And even let your hands lightly slap onto your lower abdomen and low back. Noticing as well. I'm noticing this now because just kind of a satisfying little thunk as my hands touch my torso. It awakens my sense of hearing. We're always taking our senses with us as we move through space. It's a good way to keep on reorienting to the here and now. And then we'll switch it into a side bend. So let's stop the twist and then stretch one arm up and over at a time, just arm up and over, swooping motion to really emphasize the side bend, which was already happening with the simple sway. We're just bringing it up into the arm, changing the angle and relationship of the arm to the torso, bringing the arms through some abduction and then adduction. Okay, and begin to let that settle. And then invite you to explore all of the motions that we have just been creating in the body, creating curves and spirals, different angles and movements. Just opening up to curiosity, kind of how we opened up to curiosity of the senses, doing the sensory sweep, how we opened up to curiosity of moving around one arm as it was fixed on the floor. What if I do a side bend and swing my arms? And what if I did a circle through my hips? Right, and you can isolate one movement and just play around with that for a while. Or you can kind of have the movements cascading on top of one another. Moving through space, noting your relationship to gravity and how it keeps on pulling you toward the earth, right? And how you can maybe make yourself feel a little bit heavy, like emphasize more for the pull of gravity, what that would feel like. And then maybe emphasize lightness, like, whew, How can I feel really super light? Really light, almost like I'm going to float away. And maybe heavy again. Heavy. Gravity's really pulling you down. Moving through different motions. And then really super light. Like, whew. Yeah. Now, to emphasize this a little bit more, come back into Tadasana. I'm just going to invite you to walk around your space. The first one, I'm going to invite you to walk around really smooth, and you can even use your arms in this, just like super smooth. Really, really smooth. As smooth as possible. Just walking through. You might feel that kind of downward motion, but without gripping. Like really strong relationship to gravity, but using it to kind of glide through. Now, switch that. Like, imagine you're so light that you're going to float away and just walk through space a little bit. Just like, whew. Like, your relationship to gravity is very loose. Like if a gust of wind came, it could just blow you away. It's moving in that way. Now try to find a happy medium between the two. So moving smoothly, relationship to gravity, but maybe with moments of lift and freedom. Know that these are textures that we're always working with. We want to be connected to the earth. Our relationship to gravity is helpful. But if we stay glued to it with our motion, it's problematic too. So I want to find the just right, smooth, low to the ground, connection to gravity, and lightness. Juxtaposing the two. Okay. Whew. Come back to Tadasana when you're ready. Allowing that to settle. Standing tall. Now, we'll bring this into a bit more form that you might be familiar with. And this form looks like some yoga poses on a little bit of a loop. So the first thing that we'll start with is on hands and knees. On hands and knees, you stretch your right leg back and then curl your right knee in. And then right leg back and right knee in. And just do this on repeat for a few rounds. And in. And out. And in. Keep it going. The idea here is that now we have some closed chain action really kind of connected to gravity, connected to the floor. Yet the free leg moves through space, hopefully with a degree of lightness. So even in putting our bodies in this shape, we're doing exactly what we're doing in a playful way of juxtaposing more of a grounded relationship to gravity and a little bit more lightness and freedom. Notice as well the two positions, stopping positions that you're pendulating between. The arc of movement, the position, the direction, the acceleration, the velocity. Okay, and then stretch your right leg back, pause. Either stay right here or maybe stretch your left arm forward. Then bring left hand down and right shin down. Then we'll do the second side. Stretch your left leg back and curl it in. And back and curl in. And keep it going. Again, exploring the same things. The difference between the places that are fixed, where you're really aware of your relationship to gravity, to the force of gravity, and how the leg that's free, it moves through space. All of the parts of your leg, upper leg, lower leg, the knee flexing and extending, and even the spine coming into slight flexion and extension with the movement. The pendulation between the two positions that you're going between. Noting the starting position, the angles there at all the joints, the directionality, the acceleration and velocity. Okay, next time you stretch your left leg out, stay there. And maybe even stretch your right arm forward, balance. Lower your right hand down and your left shin down. And stretch your right leg back and stretch your left arm forward. You can, after we've paused for a couple breaths, you can lower your left hand down and proceed like we did earlier, or you can include the arm this time, curling left elbow and knee toward one another, and then stretching back out. We won't do this for quite as long as the last time. Just adding a little complexity. Noticing what needs to be stable in order for the one arm and leg to be free. And do one more. And either stay here, stretching arm and leg apart, or bend your right knee, reach back with your left hand, clasp your foot, and kick back and up. And then slowly release your left hand and right shin down. Last piece with this sequence, stretch your left leg back, your right arm forward, pause here. Again, you might just do this for a couple breaths and then lower your right hand back down. Or you can include your arm in the curling action this time, knee toward elbow, stretch back out. Just going back and forth with the two. Noticing kind of cross action between your right shin and left hand, and how that's different than with both hands on the floor. One more time, and stretch out. Either stay here or bend your left knee, reach back with your right hand, clasp your foot, and kick back and up. Awesome. Okay, and slowly lower your right hand down and your left shin down. Curl your toes under and come into downward facing dog. Stretch that out. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. And take another breath. And exhale. Last inhale here. And on your exhale, walk your hands back to your feet. Come into standing forward bend at the back of your mat. Place your hands on your hips. Lengthen through your spine. And stand all the way up. Okay, move to the front edge of your mat, the short edge of your mat. We'll come into another looping sequence of standing poses. It'll start in something that's maybe a little bit less familiar to yoga, and then it'll come into some shapes, some yoga asana shapes. First, you'll just start standing and lift one thigh up and bring your palms to the center of your chest, and then bring your arms down, and then come up on the other side. So using the swing of your arms as the pacing for moving one thigh up and then the other thigh up. Momentary balance on one side and then the other. And using this dynamic motion from side to side to be curious and to explore how the body moves through space, what's happening internally, maybe with muscular engagement, movement of the bones, and what you can sense of that. Also, what's happening externally, how your body moves through air, relationship, pull toward the floor with gravity. Okay. Do an even amount on both sides and then let that settle for a moment. Standing in Tadasana. So this next one will come from that position, swing the arms down and up and come back into a lunge with one leg back at a time. So as you're ready, come along with me. Right thigh up, palms in the center of your chest. You'll swing your arms down and up and come back into a lunge. And then to come forward into the position that we were just in with thigh up at the front of the mat, you'll swing your arms down and forward to come up. And then bring your right foot down. Left side, palms up and down and up to lunge. And then down and up. Position we were just in, lower your left foot down. And we'll do that a few times. Right leg up, lunge, and forward, and up, and lunge, and forward. Other side, and lunge, and forward. And left leg up, and lunge, and forward. Right leg up, and lunge, and forward. And left leg up, and lunge, and forward. And now that we've established it, keep going. Getting into the loop, making it automatic so that we can focus on other things. What is happening here? What is the complexity of movement? Which body parts are creating different angles, different relationships to gravity? How are the bones and muscles moving? It's almost so much information. Can be a lot to process. So maybe even just let that go if that's what's happening. And just feel your body in this loop as it's moving. Do one more time on each side from where you are, as best you can tell. And then come to a stopping place again. Letting that settle. Noticing how just adding a little bit more complexity brings up so much more information. It's fascinating. Okay. Noticing the beating of your heart, the deepening of breath, and processes happening internally. Okay, we're gonna add another piece. So from here, you'll come into the starting position. So come into it with me, right thigh up. Into Vrikshasana to tree pose. Place the sole of your right foot high on your inner left thigh. Your palms back together. And then stretch your arms up. We'll do a static shape here. Pause for a couple of breaths. All right, bring your palms to the center of your chest, then bring your right side forward just where we were before. And now it's the same. So come back into a lunge and forward. Pause here, and we're gonna add one more piece. With balance on your left leg, tuck your right leg back, reach back, clasp the outer edge of your right foot, stretch your left arm forward, and Naprajasana. Keep this mostly upright. Lifting your chest up, kicking back and up. And then come back through center and into the starting position, and then lower your right foot down. Left leg up. Pause, find balance, and come into Vrikshasana, tree pose. With your palms together, steady yourself. And then stretch your arms up. And we're just coming into a static shape and noticing that even in relative stillness, so much has to happen to hold this position. That there are forces at play. We're working with gravity, working the environment that we're in. We're working with what's going on inside our bodies. Bring your palms to the center of your chest and bring your left side forward. And then swing back, lunge, and swing forward, pause. Find your balance, then tuck your left leg back. Reach back, clasp the outer edge of your left foot, stretch your right arm forward. Kick back and up. Coming into Natarajasana. And for this version, make it mostly upright. You have to come down, torso parallel to the floor. It's more of a lift up through your chest and a kick back and up through your left leg. And then slowly come through center, left thigh forward. And left leg down. Okay, let's do that a little faster. Right leg up and tree pose. And arms up. Take a breath. And right side forward. And lunge. And back forward. Leg back, Natarajasana. And slow it down a little bit. And right leg forward. And right leg down. And left leg up. And tree pose. And arms up. Take a breath here. And left leg forward. And swing it back, lunge. Swing it back forward. And Natarajasana. Kick back, reach forward. Nice. And then left thigh forward and left leg down. Pause here. We are going to add another piece, another loop. So right thigh up and tree pose. Arms up. And then right thigh forward and lunge. Pause here. Pause, pause. So the addition comes here in the form of goddess pose or horse stance, and then a lunge to the back side of your mat. So you bring your arms out to the sides and come into this wide-legged position. And then you'll spin to a lunge in the other direction, toward the back edge of your mat. And then come again through horse stance or goddess pose, through center, and then lunge back to the front. And do that a few more times through center and to the back and through center and to the front. You choose the pace. Just noticing the difference in angles of your body, relationship to the forces internally, externally, the position, acceleration, velocity of your body parts through space. Interesting angles that your body is making as it moves through these shapes. Okay, begin to finish up. Make sure that you're facing forward. Pause there. Yeah, good. And then swing your arms down, come forward and up. And Natarajasana. Kick back and up, reach forward. And right leg forward. And right leg down. Okay. And second side, left thigh up. Tree pose. And arms up. And then left side forward, palms to the center of your chest. And come back into a lunge and pause here. Pause, pause. We'll do the same thing. So coming through goddess pose, and then a lunge to the back of your mat and through center. And the other side. On repeat. You choose the pace that feels appropriate to you. Really getting into the quadricep muscles strongly here. So yes, you should be feeling your quads. I definitely am. Noticing the slight shifts in your legs and how that's different than the kind of free movement of your arms. Okay, begin to finish up. We'll end facing the front again, so make sure you're facing there. Pause. And then forward and up. And Natarajasana. Back. Stretch forward. And then bring your left thigh forward. Lower down. Stand tall. And breathe. Okay. So for this next round, our last round, we'll actually bring one more addition in, but we won't do as many lunges front to back as before. So follow along. Shift to your left leg, bring your right thigh up. Vrikshasana. And stretch your arms up. Right thigh forward. And lunge. Through center. And lunge. One more time through center. And lunge. Then from here, warrior two, pause here. And then straighten your right leg. Sorry, your left leg. Turn your left toes forward. So all 10 toes face the long edge of your mat. And then fold forward, bring your hands down to your mat. Coming into Prasarta Padottanasana with your spine lengthened. And from here, we'll do a couple of different motions. Keep your left hand on the floor, stretch your right arm up, doing a little twist through your torso. Bring your right hand down and left arm up. And left hand down, right arm up. Right hand down, left arm up. Let's do one more time each side, left hand down, right arm up. And right hand down, left arm up. Bring both hands down. And then from here, start to bend your right knee and walk your hands towards your right leg. And then switch sides, bend your left knee, walk your hands toward your left leg. And then you're just gonna switch from side to side. It's kind of low hovering, lunging, juxtaposing at the pace that feels best to you. And if this feels like plenty here, you'll stay high. If you want to take it lower, you can take it into more of a skandasana shape, flexing and lifting your left toes up away from the floor. And then you'll switch sides, coming from skandasana on one side to the other side. Or stay higher, like we were doing earlier. Up to you. Just opening up the hips, dynamic fashion. I'm exploring this kind of low to the ground shape, how this feels. Even the little bits of acceleration here. All right, begin to finish up. And then come into the wide-legged forward bend again with hands to the floor, all 10 toes pointing toward the long edge of your mat. Place your hands on your hips, lengthen through your spine, stand up. Turn your left toes toward the short edge of your mat, come back into warrior two. Come into lunge, spin your right heel up, arms up, and then forward and up, right thigh up, and then kick back and Natarajasana. And right thigh forward, and right leg down. Okay, we just have our second side. Bring your left thigh forward and up. And come into tree pose. Stretch your arms up. Left side forward. And then come into a lunge. Come through horse stance or goddess pose, and lunge to the back, and then through center again, and lunge to the front, and turn open to warrior two. Pause here. And straighten your right leg. Turn your right toes toward the long edge of your mat. And fold forward, bring your hands down onto the floor with lengthened spine. Keep your right hand down, stretch your left arm up. And left hand down, right arm up. Right hand down, left arm up. Left hand down, right arm up. One more time each side, right hand down, left arm up. And left hand down, right arm up. And both hands down, and start to bend your left knee, walk your hands and your torso toward that leg. And then you'll go the other way, bending the other knee. And just go from side to side in this way. You can even clasp your ankles if that feels like a good variation. I just know that this is another variation. You can stay high with your hips this way, or you can come down further, flexing the foot that you're moving away from and spinning it up to come into Skandasana from side to side. Just working with this in the way that feels best for your body today. Just noticing how much information there is to take in, even as you're low to the floor, moving from side to side like this. I begin to finish up. And then come into the wide-legged forward bend, all 10 toes facing the long edge of your mat. Lengthen through your spine. Place your hands on your hips. Lift your torso up. And turn your right toes toward the short edge of your mat and bend your right knee. Come back into a lunge, spin your left heel up, stretch your arms up. And then forward and up, thigh in and up, and Natarajasana. And then left side forward and down. Stand tall. Okay. Lastly, begin to run in place. Yeah, just a little jog in place. It's really short bursts of motion. It becomes very clear, like what acceleration means, right? To lift your foot up away from the floor is this little burst of maybe take it around the room a little bit, just a little jog. Does that feel like shift positions on your feet, forward and back in a circle? And then invite you to keep this same kind of energetic quality, these little bursts of movement. Might feel more like tap dancing. Just move it through space, exploring some of what we explored earlier with curves, with different shapes. Just using the jog as a starting place, as revving up to do one more exploration of movement through space, creatively, playfully. Noticing really strong connection with gravity, exploring smooth texture and light texture. Awareness of different body parts and how they move through space. Different angles that they create. Okay. Begin to let that settle down. From here, lastly, start to shake your arms. You're just shaking your arms. And feel the shake move into your chest. Allow your head to kind of move along with the shaking of your arms and chest. Feel it travel down to your rib cage, to your lower abdomen, to your hips, to your thighs, to your shins, to your feet. Just creating this shaking motion. Small little micro movements. Knowing that at the very smallest level,
you're creating different kind of biomechanical impulses and movements really quickly, creating different little micro angles, shapes, different positions that include different degrees of velocity. And you can move it around too. You don't have to stay in one place, just shaking it all off. Ooh. And then let that settle when you're ready. Oh, good. And as you're ready, however you'd like to get there, come down to a seated position on the floor. Might be creative, exploring different relationships to gravity, different movements. Okay. Now, lie down on your backs. Bring your legs up overhead into a happy baby position. Clasp your feet and just start by moving your legs through space. Just spreading and moving through space. And the echo of all the work that we were doing today. And rolling on your back, bending and straightening. And then come into happy baby, flex your feet, and just come into a stillness with happy baby. And spreading your legs apart, flexing your feet strongly to create resistance against your hands to pull lightly down toward the floor, feeling the stretch on your hips. And then slowly release that. Bring the soles of your feet to the floor, and lastly, start to swing your legs from side to side, dynamic twists. For a few rounds, from side to side. It's a way of relaxing the body and really feeling in contact of the floor beneath you. And gravity's hugging your body, even through this movement. And come back through center. Stretch one leg at a time, really intentionally. So start with a lot of muscular engagement. Flex your feet, even stretch your arms up over your head. Stretch out through your heels and through your fingertips. Get tall. Knit your rib cage in and down. And then exhale, release all the engagement. Rearrange your legs and arms as desired. Put yourself into a really comfortable position. And then allow yourself to sink down in for some rest. Just a little while to rest. To allow our bodies and minds to catch up with all of the information from the movements and shapes that we brought our bodies into. Feeling our relationship with the earth, and gentle pull of gravity. Maybe even give in to that a little bit more and see if your body can relax into this external force of gravity. And seeing gravity as a friend. As a means by which we can relax deeper. and rest here. Begin to feel awareness come back to the surface. You can simply notice in stillness or introduce a little movement in your body to aid in drawing awareness back to the surface. Taking your time, I invite you to make your way back up to a seated position of some sort in any manner that you would like. And once there, join your palms together at the center of your chest. Just feeling the contact of your hands against one another as a helpful gesture, as an appreciation to yourself for showing up for your practice. Then again, lower your hands down to your thighs. We'll end this class a little different than a typical yoga class. We'll orient again to the space we're in. So if your eyes are closed, allow them to gradually open. Again, with your eyes, explore the space that you're in, just looking around, seeing what you see, noticing your relationship to your environment now. What's the same? Perhaps what has changed? Is there anything that your eyes are drawn to?
Giving yourself permission to stay with it for a little while, if it's calling you. When you're ready, bringing your awareness back to our virtual space together. Thank you for showing up for practice, for exploring some biomechanical concepts and some anatomical concepts in a playful way. Thank you so much.